Welcome back, everybody. So, we're going to get started. Once again, imagine, if you will, a roaring fire, and we're all sitting here roasting chestnuts and talking to Tammy Robinson. So, thank you. Actually, I am seriously considering, I understand you can buy plasma sets that you can see them in bars with roaring fires on them, so maybe next time you'll see that. So welcome back. We're with Tammy Robinson of Verizon. And Tammy, why don't you tell us just a little about your background, and then we'll go right into what we're talking about.
Sure. I've been with Verizon for 8 years this summer. I started in the data business a number of years ago on the business development side, and I transitioned over to the core team that helped to launch Brew at Verizon. A couple years after that, I actually transitioned again to work on the content side of the business, managing at that time games, ringtones, and now recently role has shifted yet again to managing the wireless gaming business exclusively, as well as the online gaming business at Verizon corporate.
So I find that really interesting because as we started, it's a nice circle from where we started the conference. We talked about how users are increasingly platform agnostic, and I wonder to what degree that's the case with the users and the games that you have on Verizon.
Well, the really cool thing about our business is that we have been able to bring a lot of really well-known brands to the mobile space, whether it was from the console space. We've got titles like Madden. We've also got huge hits on the online side in titles like Zuma and Bejeweled that have been very, very successful. Not to mention, the evergreen killer gaming experience of Tetris. So there's definitely a lot of parallel and synergy. We're now seeing also lots of games that have been successful on the mobile side actually transition over to platforms within the gaming space.
I find that really interesting because my first thought would have been that it's the other way around, that you go from online to a mobile experience, and that is what we've seen, right, with MySpace, YouTube, some of the social networking sites. Is that not the way that it's going to be?
Well, I think it's you can't deny the incredible amount of eyeballs in the U.S. that are exposed to content on the mobile device, and it's huge numbers of people who are playing games, whether it's free or downloading and paying for games online, and at some point the two audiences ultimately become the same person, right? So we've got hundreds of millions of people in the U.S. with a mobile phone, and in some experiences they've only ever played a game on their cell phone.
How, in the early days, will your role in online intersect with mobile?
I think out the gate we'll do a lot of synergy marketing and allowing customers to understand that there are like games on different platforms within the arms of Verizon. So whether it's our broadband solution or our wireless solution, a customer might at some point be able to play versions of whichever game, whether it's a hardcore game or a very casual experience, on all three of those platforms.
And would they be interconnected?
At some point, I think we'll get to interconnectivity, but it's incredibly large undertaking for a company of our size to move these gigantic wheels that we have, just in order to group the teams and make them synergistic. So, technology is in and of itself its own beast, and that's going to take some time, but we at least have right now very good foundations on all three of the businesses, and we can at least out the gate offer the customer a a synergistic experience around marketing and gameplay.
And that seems to be the huge deciding factor in the rollout of most of these applications, is having a multiplicity of platforms that you can advertise across, right? Because you'll be able to now advertise, I assume, your mobile gaming experiences on Fios and online and so forth. So that should give it a good boost.
Absolutely.
So, what kinds of games do you think are your people playing? Playing, and in a multiplayer universe, are we talking about turn-based games or what?
Our customers are playing very casual 5-minute experiences to, across the different platforms. 13-hour exchanges online, right? So, will we see the traditional kind of multiplayer experience from a gaming perspective? Probably not. But what you'll see the door might be an experience such as you perform a task or you complete a level and you attain badges or points or scores or some kind of credentials for that particular gameplay, and you can then tell your friends about it or your network of gamers about what you've done, and your network then in turn can compete against the experience that you delivered for that same level.
Now, are there specific types of games, and you mentioned turn-based, are there specific types of games that are most popular in the wireless world?
Yeah, I think the games that we all kind of know and love, like Tetris and Bejeweled and Monopoly, was a huge brand for us last year that lend very well to the mobile space, are still leading the pack. But we actually saw, very interesting things happen. Launch of our 3D service, our VCast gaming service last year. It actually was the second highest revenue generating category for us in 06, next to classics. So it's we always talk about whether it's casual or it's hardcore, and lo and behold, it's actually both. So the bottom line for us is, if we can offer the customer an extremely good 3D experience, like you might Need for Speed title, as well as a very cool casual experience on something a little bit less hardcore like solitaire, then we should offer both, and the customer will appreciate it.
So how good is the quality? We had a panel called In Search of Console Level Gaming. So where are we in that continuum?
We've actually been told, and not by the other people that I work with in my office, but people develop games and publish games, that our devices are pushing the limits for the industry, and they're delivering experiences that are PS1 quality.
And what happens in this 3G environment, and I mean, what's the next step beyond that? I mean, what are the next level of 3D games? What should we be expecting?
I think one of the things that I'd really like to see is more innovation and a broadening of the concept of what 3D gaming can be. I think we've seen successes that people wouldn't necessarily consider to be 3D titles per se at first glance, but Sims from the guys at EA and My Dogs has been very successful, and they are 3D games on our deck, but they're definitely not going after the hardcore gamer audience. So I would love to see more 3D titles, because they really sell on Verizon. They make good money, and they pop into our top sellers. And two, I think just the idea of what a 3D game is more than maybe a racing or a first-person shooter per se.
Now, in regards to the Sims, are we talking about, just to be clear here, a one-person experience or a multiplayer experience?
We actually we offer both experiences on our deck.
And how do they rate comparatively in terms of usage?
You might have to qualify that.
Well, what I mean by that is what percentage of the people who play the game play one versus the other?
You know, it's still very difficult for us to say whether or not a customer is only purchasing Sims. We actually offer them on some devices. We offer them both to choose from. And in general, the kind of 3D multiplayer version is performing at a very high clip. But, you know, it goes back to the crux that is Sims. You know, it's supposed to be interactive, and it's supposed to be clean and crisp and cool to look at, and so it literally makes sense for the customer to go that route.
And is there a version of the game which allows the customer to interact with other customers as well?
Yes.
And is that a popular, compared to the single version, is that a popular one?
Yeah, I mean, even in the multiplayer space, you'll see a lot of the games offer single player experiences within them. So, you know, it ultimately goes back to choice. And for the customer, you can choose on our deck to subscribe or purchase, and you can choose to play single player, or you can choose to play multiplayer whenever you feel like it.
What is the status of games based around LBS?
You know, there are a number of different ways that LBS gaming have been approached to date. We haven't actually launched any on our deck right now, but we are in talks with a number of different players in that area. One of the things that I'm really interested in pursuing is the technology. Again, just kind of breaking the thought process around initially what we would assume that LBS gaming would be. You know, people might think you've got this game and you can find people in this building per se. But there are other things that you can do as well. LBS gaming might be something like proximity gaming, which is something that we're very interested in and actively looking at. You know, it's a very broad scope, and I think the really cool thing about our industry is that, you know, you can look at the next evolution in a very kind of plain Jane vanilla perspective, and then there's always going to be someone along and switches it up and takes it, you know, way further than anybody else would have considered initially.
So what are you looking for? I mean, a good percentage of the people who come here and are listening to you now probably have an idea that they would love to see on the Verizon deck. I'm sure that surprises you. So what are you looking for? What do you lack right now?
You know, I don't know if I can articulate what we lack on our deck, but I think our publishers have done a very good job of going after things that make sense to customers and is relevant, and they deliver against those titles with very, very good experiences. I think if we were to narrow it down, I think we're at the point now with this new paradigm that we're in, which is, you know, mobile, online, and TV. We can talk to a larger audience of people in terms of offering gaming content. So it's not necessarily, I know for a long time we've actually struggled with the merchandising of mobile gaming because it's text, or in some cases it might be a little image on a screen. But now when you consider that Verizon is bringing the weight of the online and its TV business to gaming, you're reaching a much broader audience in a medium, or in multiple mediums that they're accustomed to consuming and being advertised to. So it's you know, what we would have necessarily thought 6 months ago about whether or not a new and innovative title can actually succeed in the mobile space is going to change in, you know, the next couple of weeks, because we can talk about this mobile game on our online service to our online customers, and we can also talk to it to our Fios TV customers as well.
When am I going to be able to get Fios TV? No, I'm not going to ask. Wrong
I'm still
conference.
waiting myself.
I know. It's like
I've heard really great things about it, though. So.
Considering what I pay for Time Warner, I'm open to it. There's, as you're undoubtedly aware, there's been a long time debate in the gaming industry about how much do you really need Hollywood content. And I've moderated gaming panels before where the panel was split right down the middle, not surprisingly the ones who spent the most on Hollywood talent mapping, whether that be movies, television, sports, right down the middle. Those who spent millions say it's the only way to do it. Other people who develop bowling games, but notably that particular company is now part of a big company, so maybe they've changed their view, say, no, come on, it's the play, and you're probably going to say both are valid, but what's your view on that?
Well, you know, I think you're right. I think that I'm going to say both are valid, because I think they are, and I think there is a lot of value. But the interesting thing for Hollywood is that, you know, I think if you were to look at the folks internally in your industry, you'd find that they're interested in having a game represent, whether it's, you know, it's an artist, their likeness, or their movie property. So, you know, I think we're working with, you know, companies in the music space on gaming, and of course in the traditional media business on gaming.
Do you talk, just so people are aware of this, do you talk to people who are not aggregators or who do not at this point have a really well-established brand presence? Or is that at this point really don't bother?
We still do, actually. You know, it's getting increasingly difficult to compete in the mobile gaming space, not only at Verizon but everywhere else. And we do approach our business, you know, very differently maybe than some of the other carriers do. We are looking to work very closely with publishers who can deliver, you know, great IP and deliver consistent gaming experiences, and also bring a portfolio to the table that is meaningful. You know, it's really not going to be valuable for any of us at the end of the day if 30 titles are delivered and, you know, 29 of them don't really capture the customer's imagination. So, you know, we're not going to always have hits, frankly. And we're going to need some titles that come in and, you know, they cycle through, you know, a 6 to 12 month life cycle, and they produce revenue for you. But what we're looking for from a publisher perspective is to create tentpole titles and to have some kind of guarantee behind our numbers, because these titles are what customers want, and they expect to see sequels, and they enjoy and want to purchase those sequels.
And at this point, something that's a mobile-only title is just fine as far as you're concerned. I mean, it doesn't have to be an online. What if someone came to you with the opposite idea at this point? What if someone said, kind of like the Afterworld concept, okay, man, we got a concept which is so cool, it'll play on every one of your platforms, we'll do all the repurposing for you. Are you open to that, or is it still early days?
You know, it is still early. This is 8 weeks into the job on the online side, but we're definitely engaging in in-depth conversations with all sorts of folks who are producing content, in whether it's online or mobile.
You mentioned earlier to me that you're also moving, you have some degree of authority over the lifestyle space as well. You want to talk about that a bit?
Sure. So as a part of the most recent reorganization, I also picked up in my team the applications business, including you know, anything from horoscope all the way to, you know, diet and fitness applications, and the lifestyle category in general seems to be the one that most people in the industry have targeted towards the female audience. But, you know, I think there's room for every customer to find something of interest in the application space.
That's actually very interesting, because as we know, the female market is really underserved by in general. So how does that play in the mobile space? What's the percentage of female usage there?
You know, I think the mobile space might be most closely aligned with the online space in that respect. We see very interesting numbers. We look at games that we would assume the bat would be very, very female oriented, and we see login names and screen names that are male centric. So you know, I think when we look at our business and we look at some of the, see it's pretty close, you know, skewing a little bit female in terms of numbers, but certainly the younger male audience is consuming a lot of gaming experiences from a purchasing perspective.
And what kind of content are you dealing with for the lifestyle market?
You know, we just recently launched an application for InStyle magazine with Lime Life, and that one's exclusively available on our deck. And we're trying to broaden the category under the application space to include the traditional kind of infotainment experience. So, very casual magazines that have, beautiful images of celebrities work because, people are connected to that brand in the traditional means, and now they can connect to it in the mobile environment.
And in the mobile environment, is there a particular way that people most like to interact? I mean, we hear a lot about video and how hot it is, and then we hear in the same conference that only 2% of users of handsets in the United States are currently enjoying it on, even using it a few times. So what do they want?
I think they want different things at different times. And, this month it might be a game, and next month it's going to be the next new hot hip-hop artist release, or, the following month it'll be some, great new content on YouTube or Comedy Central. So it's important for us as, as a distributor of content to provide those experiences to the customer and have it readily available in a format that they can actually easily find and consume content.
How fast are things changing?
I think I've been around for a very long time, and I never get bored. That's I see some kind of leap, and maybe leap isn't the right word, but some kind of change every 6 months. I was chatting with some folks yesterday, and we were kind of joking that, if you're not accustomed to change, or if you're not expecting change, and this is definitely the wrong place for you to be. So that's the only constant in our business, and huge leaps I'm seeing pretty much anywhere from 12 to 18 months, but always something new, it seems, every 6 months or so.
Well, one thing that I found really interesting, I asked you the question earlier. I said, well, what about this cross-platform stuff where the content really is the key piece and people don't care what platform they're on, and the wireless people are gaming with the people online, and you said that they're going to have to wait. And I thought, okay, that's going to be a while. So how long is it?
Well, it's really hard to say how long it will be to wait, but again, the key thing for us is that we offer very good experiences on all of those platforms today. And it's a matter of the entire industry, frankly, putting some of the necessary pieces in. Again, the good news is, as far as the customer is concerned, this thing is still pretty new to them. There aren't a lot of people who are as immersed in the idea of wireless content as we are, because we kind of live it and breathe it every day.
Yeah, it is interesting that we always go back. Our tendency is to always look at the business itself, look at the capabilities, look at the technologies, and we sometimes forget that it's all about marketing. And the biggest example I can think of is, how VOD has been available on cable for years and years and years, and in many places people still use it at all because it's all a question of marketing.
Sure.
Yeah, so your ability to cross-promote on different platforms is probably the biggest cross-platform advantage you have at this point. So I think we have time for just a few questions, if that's okay. So if you have any questions, I'll walk around and do that. Do you have any questions for Tammy? Yeah. I assume that's okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Always have to ask.
So how far does Verizon intend to take personalizing the deck, using kind of the UI1, things like that, allowing the user, because right now there's only, if I'm not interested in Spider-Man, then there's not much for me in a lot of these categories. And so the idea would be not just personalizing it, but being able to have it intelligently figure out what I'm interested in, so that I'm able to find these things much quicker.
Well, we just recently, middle of last year, we launched our search product, and the really cool thing about it is it searches across the medium. So you type in, maybe you are interested in Spider-Man, or maybe it's Beyonce, but you type in that keyword, and whether it's a wallpaper, or it's a game, or a ringtone product, the search will actually populate it, and you can immediately click to that particular piece of content and purchase it.
It's neat. Is that kind of a white label search product that you created?
It is it's called Get It Now Search. It's on our brew deck, and it is powered by Medio.
Powered by what, I'm sorry?
Medio.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
I'm Maarten Noyans, running the International Mobile Gaming Awards. I have a question. Recent research has shown that the games revenues, the download revenues in the Western world, so outside of Japan and Korea, are sort of stagnating at 5%. So 5% of the people who have a game-enabled device are actually downloading and playing games. Do you think that this is our market, 5%, or do you think this will grow when our delivery system improve, when our is coming out, maybe better games?
I just reviewed some our own data, and it's looking more like 8% year over year. So you know, in a year where we had a tremendous amount of success in our gaming business in 2006, and it shows in the fact that there are more people, one, aware of mobile content gaming, and two, willing to pay for it. So to answer your broader question as to whether or not I feel that 5% is the number, I would say no. I think we're still. I go home and I have holiday dinner with my family, and my sister just graduated law school. They know what she does. They have no idea what I do, and that's the reality. So it's still very, very young. But if you look at the people in your inner circle who actually know about what we do, people, and they're bringing their friends, and they're going to be consumers of mobile content for a very long time.
I have a feeling my children are single-handedly supporting the carriers.
We appreciate it, Michael.
Yes, it's my personal pleasure, or displeasure.
That's why I'm here.
That's why you're here. Do we have any other last questions for Tammy, or are we good? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Pleasure. Okay, so we'll take a couple minutes break while we get the next panel going and get underway.